No spin, no script, just soul on blast. Truth's not polite, it kicks your ass. No gods, no gatekeepers, no damn elite. We bring the fire and the fucking heat. Truth don't beg, it breaks the scene. You want justice, burn the machine. This is interviewing humanity. Say what the fuck they're scared to see. We don't play nice, we break the cage. This mic's a weapon.
Have you ever put butter on a Pop-Tart? It's so frickin' good. Have you ever put butter on a Pop-Tart? If you haven't, then I think you should.
Alright, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Interviewing Humanity. As always, I am your host, Sludge Knuckle, and tonight we're cracking open a question that most people avoid with everything they've got. Are you really a good person, or do you just think you are? We've raised on narratives that tell us if we smile or recycle, vote every 4 years, and don't punch a stranger, we're good. But is that goodness, or is it just obedience? Because let's be real, in a world built on exploitation, silence isn't neutral, it's siding with power. And comfort isn't innocence, it's insulation from the impact of your own choices. So tonight, we're flipping the mirror. We're talking about performative morality, invisible violence, and the difference between intention and impact, and what it really means to do good in a world that runs on harm. If your goodness only functions in comfort zones, is it real? This isn't about guilt tripping, it's about truth telling. And more than that, it's about transformation, because what the world needs isn't more people who think they're good, it needs people who are willing to do the work, question their place in unjust systems, and disrupt them even when it costs something. We've gathered a panel tonight, as usual, a revolving circle of everyday people, workers, veterans, disabled folks, neurodivergent voices, and formerly unhoused survivors. None of them are moral philosophers. Most of them have never had time for that. But they've lived lives where the definition of good has always been complicated. And they've got thoughts, so let's dive in. Not just on philosophy, but into action. Into what you do when when nobody's watching you. Into who you are when there's no applause. Into whether your goodness exists beyond the echo chamber of your own self-image. Let's find out together what it really means to show up for the world. First things first. Turn the music off. Do-do-do-do. So the first things first. What is performative goodness? Performative goodness is when your acts of kindness are more about how you appear than what you actually contribute. Think posting your donation instead of quietly doing the work. Think volunteering once for the photo op and not for the people. In this segment, we're going to explore the roots of performative morality, from childhood conditioning to societal applause, and how it often stems from a need for validation rather than connection. And we'll contrast it with acts of care rooted in empathy and responsibility rather than visibility. So nice is a word. Nice isn't a shield against harm. It's often a mask that people use. People who consider themselves good because they avoid conflict or are polite can still uphold racism, classism, ableism, and more. So we should examine how kindness without courage can perpetuate violence. When you choose comfort over truth, politeness over justice, and peacekeeping over peacemaking, you aren't helping anything. You're enabling. So I'd like to ask from the panel, and we'll start off with Loon, can you describe a recent good deed? Are you available? There you go.
Yeah, sorry. I was just trying to unmute. A recent good deed. I helped someone buy some socks.
Okay. What was your motivation for that?
Well, she looked like she needed socks, and she did need help with getting them, so I did.
Okay. And I assume that met that person's need?
Yeah, no, she managed to get some, and, it seemed like an amount she was happy with.
And do you feel like that act helped challenge any part of an oppressive system, or maybe just enforce comfort within it?
Honestly, I think it's a bit of both, because even though Being nice, without doing anything to back it up is bad. Kindness and helping people who are actually in need is not something a lot of people are willing to do. And the more kindness you show, the more people are able to believe in something better. But at the same time, it does prop up capitalism to be buying things. There's just little alternative in that direction that I can do at the moment when people have immediate needs.
Fantastic. Let's move to Seeds if you're available. So, have you ever done something? Have you ever done something good and then realized later that it hurt somebody?
That's a really difficult question. I'm sure there's a time. I can't pinpoint it.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a really hard question. It's like the hardest question I've ever been posed.
You're welcome.
Quantify scientifically, I'm sure there's a time. It's just, it's never been. Oh, no, that doesn't count.
So
no,
I've got a
I can't
follow.
think of a time.
I've got a follow-up question. What does accountability look like for
Please.
unintentional harm?
It looks like standing in the discomfort of knowing that you are the harm doer. It is appreciating the other party's perspective and genuinely appreciating how, if the roles were reversed, how you would feel about it, so that you are better able to empathize with the other party. Also to apologize, however you apologize, and to work toward mending that behavior that caused that in the first place.
Okay.
Or
And
eliminating that behavior.
And can you think of a time that you chose not to act because it was uncomfortable, even though it was the right thing to do?
Man, I was in the bank and this fool was talking about Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter, and I was in a rush. I had to get back to work, and I was at a fucking bank. And it would have been more uncomfortable for me to get back to work late, or to, and not just that, but to sit here and speak up in this quiet ass bank and let this fool know in a line. He's sitting there mouthing off, saying a bunch of shit he don't know what the fuck he's talking about. It just was more comfortable for me not to speak up, because then I'd have had to explain myself and then deal with the people behind the counter. That's one of my fucking money, so I can leave. I would like to answer the other question, though, if you don't mind. The question that you posed to Loon.
Yeah, go for it.
The most recent good deed I did, I talked to a fucking agent of law enforcement for over 3.5, 4 hours till clear into the morning on TikTok, on their TikTok live, and they were very receptive. And the reason why it's a good deed is because, and how it benefits them, is because they were open to the information, and it allowed me to stimulate and express myself to someone who I disagree with literally every life decision they've ever made, but in an equitable way, which people say that I don't have the capability to do. And when it's somebody of that polar opposite of my worldview and my principles, and to be able to engage with them was healthy and beneficial for both of us. But that's the good deed, is that I showed up for this person, because my first thought as soon as they said they're law enforcement was to leave, and I spent another 3.5 hours with them. So,
well, shit, that's not bad, man. That's a good deed. So the secondary part of that question was, did it meet a need, or did it serve an internal narrative?
Both. If it met the need that this individual needed information, which they were very receptive. I was like, you're a member of a cult. And they were like, I can see that. And I was like, yep, we're going to have a good time talking tonight. And we did. And so I actually think that person will be quitting their immoral, unethical job. And for me, it served my need, my internal narrative, which was that I can't and should not speak to these people under any circumstances. Period.
Fuck yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Seeds. I appreciate that. DK.
Thank you.
You're up, buddy. Have you ever done something good and then realized later that it hurt someone?
You can have them.
What's that?
Okay, sorry, man. I didn't know my mic was on, and I was talking to my daughter.
Oh, you're good.
Um, I don't really know, man. I try to stay out of things. I mean, I try to help people out to a certain extent, but as far as me trying to put people in bad situations, I kind of tend to overthink things to the point of if I look at it and I don't like it, what I'll normally do is I'll send somebody else to help. I'll use somebody else as a proxy, I guess what I'm saying. Like I don't want them to know that I'm trying to help if I think something bad could go wrong. So normally what I'll do is I'll just say, "Hey, this is what I'm doing," and just if things turn bad, then I'll apologize for it. But most of the time, I just don't like to get involved in situations like that. I'll look out for myself in trying to help other people, but they'll know that somebody's helping, but they just won't know it's me. If that makes sense.
It does. So let me switch up some questions a little bit. So when did you first realize that feeling like a good person wasn't enough?
Um, Honestly, I think it's when you try to do something for somebody that is meant to be good, and they don't, sh- they don't accordingly, they don't show you the respect that and I don't do things for respect. I do things out of love for people and out of help for people because I don't want, because I'm not one that really cares about somebody going around saying, "Oh yeah, he did this for me and that for me," and that's not my style. But it's just people not appreciating what you do for them. Like if you give somebody $200
Yeah.
and then they go back behind your back and tell somebody else, "Well, he could have gave me 500 because I saw he pull 400 out of his pocket." Well, it's
Wow.
maybe I had that other 200. I had to use that other 200 for something else. You don't know my story, but I'm
Yeah.
helping you and you're not appreciating what I was able to help you with. You know what I'm saying? I'm the type of person that I'm like, hell, bro, if you give me $5 on a $100 request, I'm be like, bro, I appreciate you. Thanks for the
Fuck yeah.
$5. I appreciate it, but there's people like that. There's people that just don't appreciate what you give them, and it's just like to the point of I don't want you knowing I gave it to you because if you know I gave it to you and you don't appreciate it, you're gonna go behind my back and start telling people, "Oh, well, he only gave me $200 when I was really needing 500."
Yeah.
Oh,
That
screw
is
you. It's just like
that is cunty behavior.
you know, yeah, and I don't like it. I'm just like, well, then I'll just use proxies from now on.
Yeah. Okay. So what's something that you used to think was good behavior that you now question? That'll be my final question for you on this specific subject.
Buying food for people that 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 claim they need it, and then when you go to hand them the food, they act all high and mighty. Like I didn't want food. Well, you're sitting there with a sign that says hungry and need food. Anything helps, and you're
Well,
just like, and it's like, okay, I get it. You wanted the money. That's fine. But it's like I bought you a meal. I'm trying to be nice to you. I'm trying to give you some sustenance to maybe make you make you feel better. And if you need money after that, then I'll give you money. But accept my meal, eat, and if you need money after you eat, then maybe we can discuss that.
okay. I see where you're coming from. Oh, and thank you very much for your contribution.
No
Let's
problem,
get
man.
down to Azrit. Um, Azrit, What's hold on, let me pull it back up. My bad. This one. So, first and foremost,
Yes.
what is a recent good deed that you've participated in?
And I was telling my daughter about this. I related the story to my daughter. It's like, look, I'm not. When I say that I'm not a nice guy, I don't mean that I'm mean. I mean that I'm kind of nice has a negative connotation to it. And I'm prefacing this. It's germane to the story. A good deed that I did for someone. I didn't do it because I was nice. I did it because I had empathy for this person, or at least for their ostensible predicament. Did he actually want food? I don't know. He went along with it. And I told her, I was like, it's because I'm grumpy kind. I'm on my way into a Safeway. It's I don't know if you have them there. It's a grocery store, because my pharmacy's in there. I'm on my way into the pharmacy, and this guy, he intercepts me. He's like, hey, can you help me out with, I'm just hungry. I just want to eat something. And I stop and I look at him for a second. I'm like, yeah, all right, come on. He's like, where are we going? It's like, you're hungry, right? We're going to the deli. And so he's like, yeah, all right, yeah, let's go. I'm serious. Let's go. And so we go and we stand there, and I'm like, what do you want? He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, pick something. Oh, okay. And he orders some chicken strips. I was like, anything else? Do you want anything else? Could I get a Coke? Yeah. Yeah. just get what you want, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, so I paid for it, and I just walked away. I walked away. I went back to the pharmacy. And it just and I wasn't trying to be a jerk to the guy. I was trying to get to the pharmacy before they closed for lunch. But I was also, I wasn't going to make a big deal about it. Like, what a great guy I am. I bought this stranger food. No, I've been hungry. I've been hungry before. I've been, scrounging for change between couch cushions. I've been enticed by the smell of a grocery store deli, because I swear to God, they pump that shit out into the parking lot just so you'll see.
Oh, they absolutely do. They absolutely do.
Yeah. No, it's as a marketing ploy, it's brilliant, because man, I wasn't hungry until I smelled that chicken. But I was like, I've been where you are. Nobody wants to be the object of someone else's pity. It's like, can you help me? Yeah, let's go. It's just very matter of fact about the whole thing, and I did that because I could. I had reached the point in my life where I was in a position. I was in a position where I was just like, yes, I can be that help for someone.
Yeah.
And I didn't care. It's just, he was hungry, I fed him, and that was that.
Okay. When did you first realize that just feeling like a good person wasn't good enough?
I spent many years as an ideological conservative.
Oof.
I know. It's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing.
Hey, self-awareness is key, though.
Yeah. I just, it's funny because my parents were hippies. I grew up liberal. I was dating a woman who was conservative, and she put on Rush Limbaugh one day, and I didn't hate it, and it just sort of spiraled from there, And so I spent several years there, and I realized, it's like all these things that make me a good conservative kind of make me a shitty human. And so I started to pull away from that. It's like, as a conservative, I would not have bought that guy food at the deli. Good, yeah. Are you hungry? Come on, let's get you a job application. I'd have done some bullshit like that. And looking back on it, I'm fairly ashamed of having ever having ever prescribed to that ideology. But because I realize it's like, being a good conservative is nowhere near the same as being a good person.
Yeah, no.
And it wasn't, I didn't have like an aha epiphany moment. It just sort of dawned on me over time. Wait a minute. Am I a piece of shit? What? I think I am. Holy shit.
Oh.
So,
Well, I'm glad you had that revelation, man. So how do you define being a good person today? And I assume that that's changed over the
oh yeah, it certainly has. No, it's like, okay, there's a rock in the parking lot. I can pick it up and I can throw it at someone, or I can take it home and put it under a table leg and fix the wobbly table issue, right? And it has everything to do with the intent and the action. So being a good person has everything to do with good intent and good action. You know, that good intent and good action can backfire, certainly. You know, I thought I was doing the right thing, but wound up getting somebody in trouble. You know, holding up an arbitrary rule, and that has actually happened to me. I thought I was doing the right thing, and as events played out, I realized I should have just kept my fucking trap shut. But hey, I was a kid; I didn't know any better. But I kind of did. If I'm being completely honest with myself, I kind of knew I was being a rat. And so that was just a mistake. You know, it's like it just left this really bad taste in my mouth. I was like, I'm never doing that shit again. But being a good person has everything to do with good intent and good action. You know, you can sit here and say, well, I'm a good person, and then pass by and ignore the person who's hungry. You can say, I'm a good person, and then step over the piece of garbage laying a few feet away from a garbage can. You know, I'm a good person, but don't speak up when someone needs defending. You know, yeah. So it's good action and good intent.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your contribution, bud. Pixa, over to you. Have you ever done something good and then realized later that it hurt somebody? Caliban, thank you so much for nutting on my computer.
Sorry, I'm gonna mute.
Literary Loon says F1.
Pixa, back to you. Have you ever done something good and realized later that it hurt somebody?
Yes, but I'm sure I have, but I'm not bringing a specific instance to mind.
That's fine. That's fine. How about what does accountability look like for unintentional harm?
I think that everyone is responsible for at least attempting to think through their actions to see if it's going to bring more harm than good.
Okay. Can you think of a time that you chose not to act because it was uncomfortable, even though it was the right thing to do?
Yeah, I have watched people argue, and maybe I should have stepped in, but maybe it would cause more harm than good. And let's face it, I'm little, and people scare me. I'm not great with people face to face, and so I often don't say much of anything to people.
Okay. And when did you first realize that feeling like a good person wasn't enough?
I have never felt like a good person.
Interesting.
I think I realized that about the time that I changed my religion from what I was raised in to a more open-minded religion.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Big Son. I appreciate your input. Gallivant, welcome in. So we're having a discussion about what makes a good person. My question for you is, what was your last good deed?
My last good deed. Good deed. Wow. Okay. Helping a friend with taking care of her children and not charging her.
All right. Now, when you did that, what was your motivation? Did it meet their need?
And I was meeting her need, and also I was meeting my need. Well, not meeting a need for myself, but it was something that I believed in. I believe in community.
Yeah.
And the one way we can start that is by helping each other.
Yeah. Did it serve an internal narrative of what being good means?
To me, yes, because I was helping someone who really was in need.
Okay. And what's something that you used to think was good behavior, but you now question whether or not it is?
Hmm. Being a good citizen. No, let me not say that. Uh, I'm sorry, being a Christian.
Fair enough.
You
Fair
think,
enough.
yeah, okay.
I mean, you can go into it if you want to. Go ahead.
Yeah, because people think when they say I'm a Christian that that this person has a relationship with God, they can do you no wrong, and they always on the up and up. But those be the people that you can't really put all your trust in, even though even a pastor you can't do that with. So it's like, yeah, with Christianity, and then with myself, my personal experiences. I was a troubled youth, and for whatever reasons, and my mother went and got wanted me baptized. And I went through the whole rhythm and roll of getting baptized, but I was still bad. Well, what they deemed as bad. And I said, well, if I can still, if I just got, I was just cleansed of my sins, why am I able to keep on, doing stuff that people deems bad? It doesn't make sense. And I don't know, it just confused me. So yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
Christianity.
And absolutely. I mean, who needs accountability when you can just get forgiveness from your imaginary friend? So, how do you define being a good person
Exactly.
today? And has it changed from what you believed before?
I think it matured a lot. I believe being a good person is doing things for others that
Okay.
are in need. This is the reason why I work in the field that I do. I work in behavioral health. I work in rehab facilities and things like that. People say, "Why do you like working in these places?" Because it's so much knowledge. That's why. It's knowledge with these people. They have lived experiences. I want that. I mean, I don't want the lived experience, but I want the experience that they have and that they can explain to me. I think where I work at is awesome. A lot of people won't like working with these types of people, but I do.
Okay. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank
So,
you.
history's greatest
Authorities say
atrocities
so much
didn't
to
happen in a
regulate,
vacuum,
but I
as we
need to
were
get
talking about
going.
earlier. They happened with the silent permission of millions who thought that they were good people. From the transatlantic slave trade to Nazi Germany to the ongoing Palestinian genocide, apathy and obedience are the norm in those situations. Being good means resisting,
Pixa says
even
good
when it
to me
costs
now.
you your life. It means unlearning propaganda. It means risking your social comfort. And in today's world, that might mean siding with the truth even when your family, your job, or your country calls it wrong and ostracizes you. So, my question, and I'm going to take this back up to Loon. Did you learn about complicity growing up, or was it something you discovered later?
I mean, something I kind of subconsciously understood for a long time, but I definitely learned about it later on in life.
Okay. Have you ever stayed silent when you should have spoken up?
Yes, a lot of times when I was younger.
What held you back?
My dad.
Fair enough. And what risks have you taken lately in the name of doing what's right?
I mean, I feel like everybody of any kind of color at this point is at risk of getting shipped off, just being out and about. So I definitely say that, but I can't really talk about anything specific other than that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Seeds. Did you learn about complicity growing up, or was it something you discovered later? Seeds? He's probably pooping. We'll move over to Demon King. Demon King, did you learn about complicity growing up, or was it something you discovered later?
I'd have to say it was something I learned later in life.
Okay. And on that note, have you ever stayed silent when you should have spoken up?
No,
Okay.
I'm a
Good.
loudmouth. I don't believe in. I don't believe. I'm not the type of person that will believe in standing down when or sitting down when people need to stand up.
Okay. And what risks have you taken lately in the name of doing what's right?
Um, well, I live in the South,
Saber
obviously,
Badger says hello.
and
39
we
here.
have a pretty pretty good sized
Alexa says
LGBTQIA
hi.
plus community. My daughters, I have four daughters that are all a part of the community. Um, and our pride parades that we have. Normally, what I do is I'll go out.
I apologize.
Literary Loon
Mhm.
says welcome in.
Thanks for the follow. Anyways.
Normally what I'll do is me and the girls will go out and I will be that dad. I walk around with a t-shirt that says
Anonymous
if
says welcome.
your family is ashamed of you, you have a new family now, that which is us.
Sludge
So,
Mahama Skinny Knuckle
we
says
take them in and we take pictures with them, we hug them, we tell them we love them, and that's pretty much what we do.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for your contribution, bud. Let's move down to Saber. Welcome in, Saber. We're having a conversation about what it takes to be a good person and what that is by definition. Did you learn about complicity growing up, or was it something you discovered later? And just so you know, you are muted, but you can unmute yourself.
So, complicity was something that I learned much later in life. Unfortunately, too late. But I think that to be a good person, you just have to accept people for who they are and just believing in the fact that you just have to think that people are just automatically good. I always assume that people are good until they prove me wrong.
Okay. Okay. And have you ever stayed silent when you should have spoken up?
No, I am quite possibly the loudest person in the room.
Okay. And what risks have you taken lately in the name of doing what's right?
I recently actually got into a fist fight with somebody because they said some very racist stuff, and I was not having it.
All right. Good on you. Fuck yeah. That's my kind of action right there.
Yeah, it didn't end very well for me, but I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to stand for it. You can say whatever you want to say, but I'm going to stand up for what I believe in, and what I believe in is loving everybody, and everybody should be accepted. And it bothers me that people have an opinion on things that don't affect them personally, And I will never be okay with that. I will
Okay.
never be okay with the RC-ism. I will never be okay with people saying any of the phobic things. And
We can be
I'm
friends.
just never okay. Like, I'm just never okay with anybody believing that anybody is less than. And I will always speak up against it. Violently if I have to. I would rather not, but if I have to, I will.
We can totally be friends. I'm going to go ahead and give you a follow. And thank you very much for your contribution, bud. I appreciate you. Pixa.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Please feel free to stick around. We got a whole episode ahead of us. Pixa.
Okay.
Did you learn about complicity growing up, or was it something you discovered later?
That's something I discovered later on.
Okay. Have you ever stayed silent when you should have spoken up?
Yes.
What held you back?
Anonymous says sorry.
Um,
Talk is bugged.
I number one, I couldn't have defended myself or someone else, and number two is just the not wanting to get involved.
Yeah. Okay. And what risks have you taken lately in the name of doing what's right?
Okay, it's a little risk, but understand for me it was kind of big.
Yeah.
I've joined
Saber Badger
this
says, I
other
appreciate her honesty.
Well, we love Pixa
this
for honesty.
other mutual aid group.
Yeah.
That's local based here, and somebody said looking for beginner piano books, and I took 11 years of piano lessons, and I have a lot of books, and I haven't touched them for many years. And I said, yeah, come over and get them. And now it did end up, they ended up helping me with some IT wireless stuff. But I think that was a good thing, giving them, 2 big boxes of sheet music and books to help with their new hobby.
I consider mutual aid to always be a good deed. Period. So you're good in my book. And thank you very much for your contribution. Anonymous, welcome in. We're having a discussion about what makes a good person a good person. My question for you is, did you learn about complicity growing up, or was it something you had to discover later?
I learned it while I was growing up at the same time as later at the same time.
Okay. And have you ever stayed silent when you should have spoken up?
No, not in the case of the story I'm about to explain, kind of a short version.
Okay.
So, yeah, I kind of risked. So, look, y'all, I'm going to put in context. I'm 37 years old, okay? So, I'm almost 40. There's an issue I had to go deal with one of my significant other's sibling, right? Their husband was doing some wild BS. Either way, I went over at 3 o'clock in the morning to see what was going on, to make sure my sister-in-law was okay. And short version of it is me and the husband got into a shoving match, and I thought I damaged my left knee. Okay, mind you, it was raining during this time, so I went back home. I cleaned up, went to sleep. The next day, so my left knee was still hurting for probably 3-4 days. So basically, in the short term, was I was defending against not a DV or anything like that. It was just crazy, pretty much. And yeah, and would I do it again? I don't know, for my health. I'm a big guy, so I do consider myself a good person. But after everything was said and done, just a lot of miscommunication, and here I am today.
Okay.
If
And
that answers the question, I'm sorry if
it
I
does.
don't.
No, it actually does. And I have some follow up questions for you. So, who taught you what being a good person looks like?
My grandparents.
Your grandparents. Okay. And has that
Yep.
definition ever hurt you or other people?
The definition
What a good person is.
of being no, not to my knowledge.
Good. And
Um,
and who do you consider a good person, and what do they do that earns that in your eyes?
my wife, my mom. I think they're the most amazing people in the world. Just honest, you know. And they never tell me something I didn't want to hear. They always, told me the truth.
Okay.
Saying like not true, but like hey, I'm telling you this because it's for your own good type of thing.
Yeah.
And so yeah,
Okay. So, and thank you very much for your contribution, Anonymous. I appreciate you. So
no
let's
problem.
let's talk about whether or not we have proven it to ourselves that we're a good person. Okay, so let's go ahead and just bring it into the room. Strip away the theory, the hypotheticals. When was the last time that you proved you were a good person? Not when it was easy, not when people were watching, but when it mattered. Sometimes proving it means standing between a cop and someone that they're targeting. Sometimes it's returning the extra money when no one would have known. Sometimes it's admitting that you were wrong and choosing to change. So, Loon, what moment in your life are you proudest of? Not for the attention, but for your integrity.
I guess I wouldn't know off the top of my head. Um, I do in general do my best to keep things honest with myself. If I wouldn't do it in front of other people, it's not really something I'm gonna be doing on my own anyway.
Okay. Um, and I'll ask you some of the questions I asked Anonymous. Um, who taught you what being a good person looks like?
I am still learning, I feel like, and it's mostly been self taught.
Okay. And just for the sake of self reflection and self awareness, what are you complicit in, by choice or by habit?
Capitalism.
Okay. And what's one action that you can take to align your daily life more closely with your values?
Just continuing what I'm doing here, doing my best to participate more in mutual aid and less in the money scheme that our country has become and kind
Okay.
of always been.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Seeds, are you available to answer this question? I thought he was pooping. He might be sleeping at this point. All right. Well, I'll move on to Demon King. Demon King, what moment in your life are you proudest of? Not for the attention, but for your integrity.
Um, Becoming a dad for the first time.
Okay. Have you ever done something good that no one saw and it still felt worth it?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. Do you think that by this point in your life that you've ever proven that you're a good person to yourself?
Um, let's see. With me, that's a double-edged sword. Because I'm a good. I mean, morally, and to my friend and family, I'm a good person. But to people that cross me, and across my kids and family, I know I'm not a good person. So I think there's a dichotomy there of I know deep in my heart that I'm a morally good person because I take care of the people that take care of me.
Saber Badger
But
says
there's
doing good is always a
also that
double-edged sword.
there's always that dark evil demon king side of me that is there lurking, waiting to come out when somebody does something to my family, you know. So yeah, I feel like I'm a morally good person, but don't mess with my friends, don't mess with my family, or you'll see the not good guy, you know.
Yeah, of course, of course. Thank you very much for your contribution, bud. Saber. I feel like I want to ask you different questions. I'll just go with these anyways. What moment in your life are you proudest of?
I would like for you to ask me the more difficult question, please.
Okay, okay. In that case, what are you complicit in?
I am complicit in allowing people to, or not necessarily allowing, but letting it pass when people say really messed up things, especially phobic things. Because I live in Tennessee, and sometimes even as much as I am confident in my abilities, I do not feel safe standing up for the right thing. And I know that that's wrong, and I'm so ashamed of it. But sometimes it is one of those things where you have to pick and choose. You know what I mean?
I do. So, what systems do you feel trapped in right now?
Well, I'm a veteran. I recently graduated from I'm waiting on my diploma. So I just graduated from college. But one of the systems that I feel trapped in is capitalism. Capitalism is a hellscape to me. I have never really understood. It took me so long. It took me decades to really get it. But capitalism is just so terrible of a system to live in, and I feel so oppressed by it.
Okay. Well, in that case, what's an action that you can take to align your daily life more closely with your values?
Actions that I try to take every day is I try to speak out when, even if it's not necessarily the safest thing to do, I try to speak out. I also join TikTok lives and I speak out against hate because there's no place for hate in my world. If you were a hateful person, I just I don't stand for it, and it does nothing but drive me absolutely insane. Like I crash out so hard, but and I'm trying to keep it as respectful as possible. But
Oh, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you, and thank you very much for your contribution. Pixa, on to you again. What moment in your life are you proudest of, specifically for your integrity?
I think what I am most proud of is internal radical self acceptance. Accepting that I have been complicit in what I have been. I have done what I've done, but I can still be a decent human even after that.
Okay. Okay. You ever done something good that no one saw, but it still felt worth it?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I used to do that. I mean, I used to do that fairly, just little things. But I mean, if I could do a little thing, then I would.
Okay. Okay. And what's one action you can take to align your daily life more closely with your values?
What I am trying to do now is I am trying to um, trying to step back from capitalism to the extent that I am able. I'm going to try to give away more things and try to do more bartering and things like that.
Okay. And then,
And I'm growing a garden. That's a good thing, right?
I mean, I consider that to
Hopefully.
be a great thing. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great thing to do. As long as you're not hoarding the resources, that's all. And I'll go ahead and switch it up a little bit. Have you ever looked the other way when someone was harmed?
Saber Badger says it's
Never
mindfulness.
intentionally,
Okay.
but yes, I'm sure I have.
Okay. What's the last thing that you stayed silent about because speaking up would make you uncomfortable?
I have to bite my tongue a good deal in around family, which is a good and a bad thing. I mean, some people you're just never going to get them to see a bigger picture.
Okay.
And it's not worth the heartache of the discussion. But I've been trying to talk to more people.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anonymous. My question for you: what systems or industries do you participate in that rely on the exploitation of others?
Alright, well, personally myself, I don't participate in anything that exploit others. I don't even like exploiting others or myself.
So there's no industries or anything that you purchase from that use exploitation for the manufacture of their goods?
Well, are we talking about like a Walmart?
Pretty much
Like a
any
Walmart?
industry that that participates in exploitation.
As far as I know, no, I don't.
Okay. Have you put any time into researching what industries those are?
No, 'cause I don't know where to begin to do research for that or
Oh,
what.
okay. Well, if you'd like after the show, I can
Yeah,
point you to a list of resources.
hey, that'll work.
Okay, absolutely. Um,
Sorry, my mic on my phone.
you're good. You're good.
I can't do myself.
You're good. So, when did you last change a habit because you learned it was hurting someone?
Change a habit because of hurting someone. I truly don't know. To be fair, I don't know.
That's fine. Actually, I like it when people don't know the answer to a question because it gives them something to think about. And what's the last thing that you stayed silent about because speaking up would make you uncomfortable?
I don't know. I truly don't. I mostly keep to myself. I'm
Okay.
either at work or at home. I don't go
Fair
out
enough.
much.
Fair enough. And thank you for your honesty. I appreciate the hell out of you. So, let me get back over this thing. So let's talk about who profits from the pushing of people believing that they're good people. Because here's the sinister part: the system wants you to think that you're a good person, because guilt-free people don't rebel. Branding morality as consumption means buying fair trade, watching documentaries, or voting once every few years, which is seen as enough. I'm going to break it to you, it's not. Capitalism profits off your self-image. It sells you virtue. It teaches you that activism is a product, and that morality is about optics and not ethics. Good has become an aesthetic. But what are we really supporting when we stay comfortable? Take this up to Loon. Where do you see morality being commodified?
A good example, I think, is the donations they do at popular grocery stores. You know, donate XYZ amount of money to help save XYZ group, when in reality, a lot of people are making money off the money you donate. It's not getting to the places they're promising, and it's just being used for tax write-offs.
That's a good answer. Okay. And who benefits when people settle for being nice instead of just?
Anyone in the upper class. Anyone who owns a large corporation or is the head of a large corporation participates in the majority decisions in those kinds of places.
And for you, what role does guilt or self-image play in your moral decisions?
In what?
In your moral decisions.
Saber Badger says I am halfway back. I left my Blackstone on and need to clean it.
Hey, no worries, man, no worries. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Lynn.
you're all good. I don't have great self-esteem, but honestly, I feel like that pushes me to be more critical of the choices I make. So pretty much throughout my entire life, having the option to do something that hurts people has never really been an attractive option ever, because what's the point in it? If someone hasn't hurt you, why hurt them?
Okay. So in the realm of accountability questions, and please feel free to not answer these if they are hitting a little too close to home, and this goes for the whole panel. But I'm going to start with you, Loon. Have you ever been called out for harm that you had caused, and how did you respond?
I get defensive, honestly, at first, but then I take in information. I don't have any great specific examples, but a lot of the time it's hard to decipher between what is good callouts versus people who just don't want to actually take accountability for the things that they are doing that are harmful.
Absolutely. And thank you very much for your answers. Demon King,
Yeah, no problem.
where do you see morality being commodified?
Oh God, that's a good question. I'm not really sure how to answer that one. I don't know, honestly.
Okay, that's not a problem. In that case, I'll just move to the accountability questions. Have you ever been called out for harm you caused, and how did you respond?
Uh, Not really. Like I said, I try to mainly stay low key and out of people's businesses. Um, and the only thing that I try to do is step up and help folks and not harm anybody. I imagine I've probably harmed folks before. And if they normally a lot of the people that will just come to me and say, "Hey, I didn't appreciate you doing this or doing that," and I'm just like, "Hey, I apologize. Won't happen again," and that'll be the end of it.
Okay. And when you apologize, do you do it to maintain your image or to make things right?
Oh no, I do it to make things right.
Okay. And final question for you: what does doing the right thing cost you? And if it costs you nothing, are you really doing anything?
Um, if it doesn't cost you, I don't think you're doing the right thing. Um, if you're doing the right thing to help people out, then there's always going to be certain people that are going to hate on you for it because you have that certain area of people that just hate on people. So if you're doing something and you're not getting hate, then you're not doing it right.
Fair enough. Thank you very much for your answers. Um, Seeds, are you back yet, or did you fall asleep? That man done assed out. All right, Saber. On to you for the questions. So, where do you see morality being commodified? You're on mute, Saber. Oh, looks like he might be cleaning his blackstone.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just came back.
Oh, no
What's
worries,
up?
no worries. Where do you see morality being commodified?
Oh, mostly amongst the Christian base. They seem to believe that just because they believe a certain way, that means they're good, and yeah, like that is like the absolute definition of trying to commodify goodness.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because
And go ahead.
because no matter how good they think they are, um, actions speak louder than words.
Okay. And what does responsibility look like to you without guilt?
Sorry. Responsibility to me. That's a very complex question. Um, there are so many different ways that I could answer that I honestly don't know how to.
Okay.
Other than just saying, as long as you're a good person and you do right by people and you treat people the way that you would, and I know that's like the most cliche thing to say, is to treat people the way that you would want to be treated, but I genuinely do believe in that.
Okay.
Um, More
Uh,
so than probably most people that say that do. So,
have you ever been called out for harm you caused, and how did you respond?
I so yeah, I have been called out for harm that I've caused before. Um, I have been well. I used to be known uh, as a girlfriend stealer.
Mm.
And I
Homewrecker.
admit now that yeah, like I wasn't trying to get that far into it, but like well, in my younger years, I was known to be the one. Like even when I met my current wife, her friends told her, you got to be careful of him because he's the kind of guy that'll X Y Z.
Hmm.
And I don't want to admit it, but I kind of was. I was the kind of guy that would X Y Z. Um, like and all right, let me define that though. That's not a rapist way. It
Hmm.
was more of a just I'm gonna get you to like me kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, And I admit it, I was kind of I'm trying to think of the TikTok appropriate way to say man SLUT.
A playboy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
A
yeah, yeah,
playboy.
yeah, yeah. And I admit it. And I understand now that it was just a horrible thing to do, but I admit that I did do it.
Accountability is key. Thank you very much, bud.
Accountability and consent. Consent is the other half.
Oh, yes, consent is mandatory. And my final question for you, no, not that one, this one. Where's that? Oh, yeah. What's one action you can take to align your daily life more closely with your values?
One action that I can take to align myself more with my daily values. That's a good one. I guess I would just say that I can continue to just completely I love standing up to and debating, or just, to be honest, arguing with people that are phobic, especially to the LGBTQA plus community. Because I am part of that community. I identify as pan. So does my wife, even though that is a lot of people that say, oh, well, if you're two pan people, how does that make sense? You're in a straight identifying relationship. And it's like, yeah, well, like, do you not understand what pan, like, means? Because it fits. But I will always stand up to the hatred that those people that are in my community and others that, and I will never not be vocal about it.
Good.
Especially living in like a rural Tennessee. I've, especially looking the way I look, because I am a white guy with a white beard. I look in, like, I've got cowboy boots and, jeans and a t-shirt and a baseball hat. So I look the part, and the amount of wild, absolutely insane stuff that people feel comfortable telling me, I love the look on their face, though, when I'm like, oh, no, I don't believe in that, because not only do I not believe in it, I think you are absolutely the, like, worst person in the world for saying that, and how dare you, because I'm part of that community, and the look on their face, that, and when they say, like, absolutely racist things, it blows my mind. The faces, like, when you can see their face drop, it brings the absolute joy, because I do not look the part. Is in their eyes, but
okay. And what role does guilt or self-image play? No, you're good. What role does guilt or self-image play in your moral decisions?
Guilt plays a lot of. It has a lot to do with the roles that I've inherited over the years, because I used to be, before I met my wife, like, I used to think that, oh, well, feminists are just these blue-haired women that hate men, until I met my wife. And then I met my wife, and she goes, well, what do you think a feminist is? And then she said, well, here's the definition of a feminist. And after I sat down and genuinely listened to her, it really changed my opinion about a lot of things. It definitely opened up my eyes, and I'm ashamed that it took me that long, and it took me her, like, giving me a basic definition to understand what I was really, like, missing out on, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your contribution.
But I finally got there.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes people some time. And I appreciate your contribution, bud. Pixa. According to you, what does responsibility look like without guilt?
I am really still working on that because I feel guilt about everything. And I'm sure it's, from trauma or whatever, but I feel a great deal of guilt even about things that have nothing to do with me.
Yeah. Okay. And what role does guilt or self-image play in your moral decisions?
I think that I am trying to not give in to the patterns of feeling guilty about everything and feeling responsible for everyone's feelings and happiness.
Okay. Okay. And where do you see morality being commodified?
I see that everywhere. Everywhere.
Yeah.
I see it in the you're at some store and it says, would you like to round up to donate to blah?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a way of making you feel good without you actually having to do anything. And all the charitable organizations, like when I worked for a large corporation, they had their one specific charity, and they kind of counted it against you if you
Saber
did
Badger says,
not.
thank you for allowing me to answer the hate questions without any feelings of guilt.
Of course. Go ahead.
Saber Badger says hard.
And then later on, I discovered that that charity was not the best one. But I did buy the T-shirt, donate the $5, whatever I was pressured to do.
Yeah.
When I could have done that with a better organization.
Okay. Thank you very much, Fixa. Anonymous. Back up to you, bud. Where do you see morality being commodified? Oh. There you go.
All right, boss. Say it again one more time for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Where do you see morality being commodified?
Morality being commodified. I guess my dumb question would be, I guess define that for me more.
Yeah, for example, the way Pixa had highlighted about charities utilizing guilt to convince you to take or convincing you to give them your money, like St. Vincent de Paul with the Santa Claus,
so like them dog commercials.
Yeah,
right, I got you. It's like them dog commercials and eyes of an angel.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, them commercials like that really irritate me. Like for example, y'all remember the commercials probably back in the late '90s, at 3 o'clock in the morning, and be like, "Oh, you can feed this hungry kid. You know, you give them going
a penny a day." Yeah.
So listen, I went to great lengths and rabbit hole digging, right, and I dug myself into the middle of the earth. Well, I tell you, I found some shit. There's a lot of shit going on there. So when you donate the money, right, it don't necessarily go to the kids. It doesn't even go to food. It just goes to the company and they keep the money.
Yes, they do.
And what's crazy, and what's even more wild, right? I have a friend that I play with. I guess I know you're familiar with Xbox or PlayStation, stuff like that.
Yeah.
He lives in one of like Africa itself. I'm not sure what city in the country or whatever.
Yeah.
And he told me like, yeah, the commercial is a scam, dude. He was like, here, I'll even send you a picture of what it actually looks like. And believe it or not, they're thriving. Just like any other country has, quote unquote, a hood or whatnot, right?
Uh-huh.
Or a low poverty area. And I'm just like, and the part he lived in was low poverty. But here's the kicker, y'all, right? But it has, it still has its, I guess, their version of up to date things, right? Like,
Yeah.
they have, of course, they have clean drinking water. They still have food, right? It's just not as abundant or as we are here. But at the same time, they're not like they're not having flies fly around them, obviously. But it's a middle of a country of some areas are deserts, so of course you get flies flying around them, right? But they don't look like they're starving. Just like any other country, just like the United States, for example, we have the exact same thing happening here. But the only thing difference is they're profiting off the people in Africa or any other third world country. So commercials like that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for that. My next question for you. What does responsibility look like to you without guilt?
Responsibility to me that doesn't look like guilt or looks like guilt.
What does responsibility look like to you without guilt?
Ooh, that took my fancy on that one. I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't know.
Okay. I love that there's a lot of I don't know answers coming out of today's show. I hope it gives everybody a chance to reflect and kind of do some searching about what it would mean. Okay.
Because the definition of responsibility to me would be like someone paying a bill, something like that. But I don't know if that's the same context that you're asking, right?
Well, I mean, it would fall that way if we were to believe that capitalism is a responsible thing to do, but we don't.
Right.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the follow, Raven.
I like that.
So, oh my God. Okay. Anyways, so from your standpoint, who benefits from people settling for being quote nice instead of being just?
I would say the justice system, but I could be wrong. I'm sorry.
I mean, they are definitely a proponent of it for sure.
No.
The government, like they're. I don't know. Let me shut up. I don't know.
No, you're good, man.
To be fair, I don't know.
No, you're good. You're good, and I appreciate you being honest about what other things you do and don't know. So I'll ask you a different set of questions. So are there people that you avoid because you are afraid that you have hurt them?
Yeah, yes and no, but not for me hurting them. More like them hurting me. And mentality wise, that makes sense, right?
Okay.
I don't know if that doesn't make sense, but that's one
It
way I
does.
can think of it.
It does. Okay. What does doing the right thing cost you if it costs nothing?
Nothing. It cost me nothing to do the right thing. Because if I lost my wallet with all my information in it, I hope somebody brings it back to me or turns it in somewhere.
Okay.
And I would do that, and I don't expect nobody to obviously in this time of age, but I hope they do.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Or turn money in that I lost that I need for a bill or something.
Okay. Thank you very much. So next we're going to talk about action or abstraction, okay? If your goodness doesn't cost you anything, it's probably not real. We love to talk about doing the right thing. We love awareness. We love posting black squares, changing profile pictures, and signing petitions that we'll never follow up on. Truth, most people's morality lives in their mouths, not in their bodies. Real decency, actual integrity, isn't convenient. It's not aesthetic. It doesn't trend on Instagram. It's messy. It gets you unfollowed. It makes family members awkward. It makes you written off as too intense. The question isn't whether you think injustice is bad. The question is, what are you willing to risk, lose, or endure to oppose it? It's easy to chant slogans and wear t shirts. It's easy to be angry online. But the world doesn't change because you feel things. It changes when you move differently, when you disrupt business as usual, when you make choices that hurt your comfort but protect someone else's humanity. So let's stop pretending the good intentions are enough. What do your actions say about who you really are? My question, and I'll take this to Moon. Welcome in, Moon.
Literary Loon says hand
When
up.
when did you last take a public risk to defend someone else?
Well, that's pretty simple. You know, I live in a state that's very confrontational, right? And
Saber
when I see
Badger
something
says
like
are
an
next.
injustice, like someone's being rude to a cashier, for an example, right?
Saber Badger
I
says I'm mad
will
about this one.
straight up stand up for that person and be like, they are trying to do their job to the best of their abilities. Who are you to be so rude just because you're having a bad day? Don't take it out on them, right? Something along those lines. And that to me is an injustice because they treated that person unfairly because they were having a rough day, or vice versa. It depends on whoever the victim is. I will stand up for them.
Okay. And what's something that you believe is wrong, but you do it anyways because that's just how things are?
Thank you.
Thanks for coming,
What I
Anonymous.
believe is wrong. What I believe is wrong is, you know, I don't want to
The
say
whole
to live a
hold
life.
on. Before the answer, the whole question is what's something that you believe is wrong, but you do it anyways because that's just how things are.
Literary Loon says thanks for coming
Working.
by.
Okay, that's a good fucking answer.
I
How
mean,
often do you do good when no one is watching?
oh wow, that's all the time. Like really, I'm not perfect at it, but I try my very best. If that makes sense.
When have you used your privilege to protect someone else from harm?
When I
Specifically,
use my privilege to protect somebody from harm,
yeah.
such as like getting in the middle of two people fighting.
Um, or using your inherent privilege as a white male to protect somebody who isn't.
Okay, I would guess use like this whole entire. If somebody treats you one way, I would go by my own morals and rights, saying I wouldn't want to be treated that way. So why would I treat somebody else that way? So I would defend their. I would help them realize that they were being disrespected. They didn't realize it. So I would bring it publicly to them, face to face. If that
Have
makes
you?
sense. I have plenty of
Would you
times.
would you mind, without getting yourself in any trouble, would you mind sharing a story?
Oh, absolutely. There's these guys that do this whole entire the orange dude. That's what I can say, right? There's a bunch of those guys that go around with those flags, right? And I simply tell them how I feel about it, and because it is offensive to me, saying have so and so, like why
Yeah.
is that person better than that person, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if that makes sense.
Okay. Thank you very
Very
much.
public, yeah. Because
Thank
you
you
know
very
me,
much.
I don't stand up for fashionness.
Absolutely.
Saber Badger says Trump.
Durbin Trump. I love that. Let's move on to Demon King. When did you last take a public risk to defend someone else's dignity?
I actually did it a couple of days ago in a Walmart.
Shit. Do tell.
Yeah, there was a she was I'm gonna say probably 18, 19, um pushing a baby around, and you know the I guess I don't know the whole story, but the father wasn't there. Maybe he was at work, you know, maybe he was doing something else. Didn't ask, didn't care. Um, but I heard this elder white Karen kind of being rude to her. You know, you should be out. You shouldn't be out. You know, doing this and doing that, and you know, you're a black woman. You need to find a father, and I stepped in between them, and I looked at the young lady. I said, "Ma'am, is this lady bothering you?" She said, "She is." And I turned around. I said, "Ma'am, she don't need you right now in her face trying to preach to her about her life. She's living her life to the best of her ability. She's doing what she has to do to take care of her
Literary
and this
Loon
baby,
says, hey, Tor
and
Stag.
then you just need to turn your white ass around and walk away. You know,
Yeah.
just
Moon King
go
says
the other way."
F1.
And basically, I just
Moon King says
stood in
F1.
her way, and until she left.
Moon
And I
King
turned around. And I
says
told the
F1.
woman, I said, "I
Demon
apologize
King says
for."
F1.
I apologize for what that lady said, even though I had no hand in it. But I felt like, since she was a white lady,
Moon
I
King says F1.
kind of had to say, "Hey, look, I apologize for her rudeness, and her being YT privileged, and her thinking that she needed to come up and say
Moon King
something to you."
says F1.
Okay.
Saber Badger says, I
Okay.
feel like a demon.
What's something that you
Moon King
believe
says
is
F1.
wrong, but you do it anyways because that's just how things are?
Moon King says F1.
I try not to do wrong things. I try to teach my children, right and wrong, good and evil, because I know there are good people in this world. I know there are evil people in this world. Um, so I've tried to live, and a lot of my friends will tell you this. I'm big into Japanese culture, and I believe in the Bushido code, the code of the samurai, the code of honor, the code of respect,
Moon
and
King
the code
says
of
F1.
loyalty. So, um, I've tried to teach my kids that, so I try to live by that rule, and just be a good person to everybody, and respect everybody's space.
Okay. Um, what's the hardest moment you've ever acted on your morals, even when it made things worse for you personally?
Um, I got one of my friends out of jail, or out of incarceration, if you will. Um, he was being wrongly uh, assailed by white YT police officers, and um,
Moon King says, I've been up since 6 a.m.
I
I am sorry I am not trying to
didn't
start
like it.
early, but I don't want to fall asleep.
I know where it's Moon King.
I just stepped in front of them and said, "Hey guys, I've recorded this whole confrontation from the front to the back. If you want to take him to jail, you can take me to jail with him, but I will
Moon
be
King
showing
says,
this to
love you, brothers
your
and sisters.
sergeants tomorrow, or your captains tomorrow, and we will get this taken care of."
Yeah. Love you too, Loon or Moon. Have a good night. So do you think most people want to be good, or do they just want to look good? And how can you tell the difference?
I think it's about a 50-50 split.
Literary
I
Loon
think
Okay.
says, speak soon. Lots of love.
some people want to be good. And those are the people that are doing it for the right reasons. And then you've got those people out there that just want to look good. That look like they're doing good, to do stuff because they know a camera's watching while nobody else knows the camera's watching. Or
Yeah.
they'll go on and do stuff if they know there's a camera present. They'll show up in front of those people and be like, "Hey, I see you're hungry. Let me give you this meal," and everything else. And then you've got these other people that are just going up to people on the street that are holding signs that say hungry, need food, and giving them McDonald's Happy Meals and Big Mac meals and things like that, and ain't even looking for a camera.
Yeah.
Going, "Where's the camera at?" so they can see
I
me.
think all people want to look good, but you're right on
Mm.
it.
Okay. Um, Thank you very much, but I appreciate your input. Saber, when did you last take a public risk to defend somebody else?
Um, Honestly, it's been a few months because I don't go out very often. But I think the last time that I actually went out in public, yeah,
Okay.
going back to what I said earlier.
Okay. What's something that you believe is wrong, but you do it anyways because that's just how things are?
Um, that even though that I should have taken the time to think about it, but um, it's a very difficult question to answer.
Mhm.
But I'd have to say that it's probably just the participation in not capitalism, but uh, like police, like going along with what police say.
Okay. Um, when have you used your privilege to protect someone else from harm?
Oh, all the time. That's one of my favorite things to do. Like I was saying earlier, uh, because of the fact that I am a white, very straight presenting person with a beard, people like they just seem so comfortable coming up to me and saying the wildest stuff. And yeah, I love shutting them down and being like, "Oh no, no, I don't play that."
Okay. Um, mhm. Where was the other question? Oh, here it is. Okay. Um, what's the hardest moment you've ever acted on for your morals, even though it made things worse for you personally?
Oh, because I was in the I'm a veteran. I was in the army. That's a very difficult question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would have to say that when I was in the army, there were times where I was told to do certain things that I did not believe in, and I do not think were right. But I had no choice. It was either that or punishment, like very
Mm-hmm.
bad punishment.
What kind of punishment?
And I'm not like, get out of the army, dishonorable discharge kind of stuff. Um, and I'm not proud of it, but I definitely did things that when I was in the army that are not to be bragged about. They are not to be. Yeah,
Says Leavenworth TS.
it's a very difficult mental health thing for me to talk about. So
Hey, no worries. I understand.
yeah, but it was definitely not good things that I did.
Yeah. Well,
But I
unfortunately,
understand that, and that's half the solution.
yeah. Unfortunately, most people who go into the military and make it out of the military alive end up having to do a lot of things that they would not do in their normal lives.
Yeah,
And
by choice.
and so long as you recognize that those were terrible things and
But at the
whatnot,
same
that
time,
is
I feel guilty. At the same time, I feel guilty for feeling that way because some of my friends were in the Marines and they were like in the first wave of Fallujah, and they went through so much more than I could ever go through. And so, at the same time, I feel bad for feeling bad, if that makes any sense. But
okay.
because they definitely went through a lot worse than I went through, but
Okay.
at the same time, I definitely didn't. I'm not proud of the things I did. So
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for being vulnerable, man. My last question for you for this segment: what's one thing that you say you believe in, but haven't actually followed through with real action?
I would probably have to say that I always like, and everybody likes to say that they will always stick up for the poor. But I will admit that I'm not proud of the fact that whenever I have like a homeless person come up to my window and say, "Hey, can you spare some quarters?" I generally just don't look at them. And that is my one thing that I am most ashamed of, other than what we just talked about. But yeah, like I don't know why, because like if I do have like a sandwich or something, I will give it to them. But if I don't, I just won't acknowledge them, and that's what hurts me the most to my soul.
Yeah, that
Because
is
if I have it, I'll give it to them. But if I don't have it, I just ignore them, and I don't know why.
okay. Well, I'm glad that you're self-aware enough to acknowledge that. What is one action you can take to rectify that ever happening again?
Well, because I live in Memphis, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but it's not exactly the best place. I could probably start rolling around with like more actual things to hand out. And I probably should, and I will.
May I offer a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
Even if you have nothing to hand out, you still have humanity. You still have basic human decency to hand out. And basic human decency can be as simple as acknowledging their existence.
And that is true, but at the same time, I feel if I don't have anything to give them, I feel like almost guilty for like looking at them and being like, "Hey, I see you and I acknowledge you, but I have nothing to give you." You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Well, let me give you a little a bit of perspective, because this is something that I do on a daily basis. The amount of people who look past the homeless, who don't acknowledge their existence, look through them, or ignore them altogether, is an insurmountable number, to the point where you acknowledging them and just letting them know that you don't have anything will do wonders. Guaranteed.
And I will definitely take that to heart, and I will take that going forward and definitely apply it. Because I never really thought of it, because I always felt guilty of like like looking at them and being like, "Hey, I see you and I acknowledge you, but I'm not going to give you anything." You know,
Yeah.
like you see where like it's
I
a
do,
very
yeah.
difficult. Yeah, it's a very difficult thing to go through.
Yeah, no, I
'Cause
understand that entirely.
I want to help them, but at the same time, like looking at them and saying, "Hey, I can't help you." It feels worse somehow, even though
Yeah.
it shouldn't.
Yeah, it feels like you're failing at that point. But
Yeah,
I can guarantee you, as someone who's been on both sides of the spectrum multiple times in my life, it is more painful to be looked through, looked past, or looked over than it is to be acknowledged and be told that I'm sorry, I just can't help right now.
And now that you've said that, I understand and I feel that. I get it now.
Okay. Just a suggestion.
But beforehand, it was more of a like you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, exactly. It's a feeling of shame and guilt that you would like to avoid as much as possible. And thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
I just want to acknowledge the vulnerability there. And my final question for you: do you think most people actually want to be good, or do they just want to look good?
That is. Ooh. Unfortunately, no. I do not think that most people want to be good.
Okay.
And it's a shame because I think that people should want to be good, but having lived in this country for as long as I have, and having seen and experienced, because I was homeless and that's another reason why I feel so much shame looking past those people, is because I lived in a car for 6 years. But feeling that shame and understanding that they just want to be seen is one of the things that it really, really does bother me. And I really do think that I should do and I can do better.
Okay. Thank you for the vulnerability and for the acknowledgement. I appreciate you. Moving on to Pixa. Hold on, get back to my list of questions. What's the hardest moment you've ever acted on your morals, even when it made things worse for you personally?
Demon King says, guys, I am off to bed. Have a great
Love you,
night.
Demon King. Have a good night. If you know, you know. I see you down there. Come on up. Go ahead.
I had to step away from my best friend for a while.
Literary Loon says, welcome in all.
Okay.
And that was difficult.
Okay. Can you remember a time when you chose silence because it was easier?
Yeah.
Do you still regret it?
Yes.
What stopped you?
Fear of consequences that I simply made worse by not speaking up.
Saber Badger says, I love you all. I am going to go to bed.
Have a good night, Saber. If you'd like to join the Discord, just let me know and I'll have my mod send you a link. What's one thing that you say you believe in but haven't actually followed through with real action?
Not.
Inappropriately timed nut. Thank you for nutting on my computer. Oh, Miss Cake, come back.
Saber Badger says, lol.
I say that I believe everyone deserves the benefit of the doubt, but I am pretty quick to not listen, not be curious enough to ask people for their stories.
Okay. Thank you for your answer. When did you last take a public risk to defend somebody?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
When did you last take a public risk to defend somebody?
Miss Cake says, not in talkie condition RN, but I appreciate you very much.
I appreciate you too, Miss Cake. Thank you for coming through. If you wouldn't mind just hitting some taps before you run off. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Yeah, again, with that whole thing with my best friend.
Okay. Do you think most people actually want to be good, or do they just want to look good?
Most people want to look good. They want to look good to themselves, and they really want to look good to others. They want to be perceived as being good without ever putting much thought into what that really means.
Thank you very much, Pixel. Torsdag, welcome in. Got some interesting questions for you, if you don't mind.
Hey.
What's the hardest moment you've ever acted on your morals, even though it made things worse for you personally?
Oh, hell, pick a moment between my military service and private security. Any of that.
Okay. Can you remember a time when you chose silence because it was easier and you still regret it?
Yeah. That would have been the Black Lives Matter demonstrations back in 2020. The reason why I stayed quiet, because I assume that's the next question, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if I was allowed to have an opinion on it, you know? Being Caucasian, I was very aware that my voice has impact, and sometimes it can be a very negative impact if I don't say the right things. But also, like, I feel bad about that because, like, I didn't want them to think that I didn't agree with them. But, you know, like, was it my fight to fight? No, it's their fight. But I want to be able to support them. The best way for me to do that was to not interject my worldview into their issue that they were going through, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever made someone uncomfortable by standing up for what's right? And how did you deal with the backlash?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I suppose
I
it's
like that.
possible that I've made people uncomfortable, but for doing what's right, I'm pretty strong in my morality now, so if they're uncomfortable with me doing the right thing, that's on them.
Okay. When did you last take a public risk to defend somebody?
Couple months ago when we had some Schnazis walking around Indianapolis.
What's something that you believe is wrong, but you do it anyways because that's just how things are?
I'm the type of person that will allow an individual to speak their mind to its fullest extent, even if I don't agree with their views.
Okay. And when have you last used your privilege to protect someone else from harm?
I want to say it was last summer.
Okay.
I was kicking it with one of my friends, Dijon, during one of those like little music venue things that we have, and 5-0 showed up, and I was like, let me talk to him because that'll give everybody else a chance. And yeah, we were doing some stuff that wasn't necessarily legal, so.
Okay. What's one thing that you say you believe in but haven't actually followed through on with any real action?
Making sure that everyone is fed, simply because I don't physically have the means to accomplish that goal.
Fucking felt that. Okay. Do you think that most people actually want to be good, or do they just want to look good?
Yeah, you know, I've been thinking about that question, and I don't know if it's about good and bad. I wonder if it's more about strong versus weak in their mentality. Maybe they see kindness as weakness, because I see that a lot.
Okay. It's an interesting take. How can you tell the difference?
Pixis says good point.
Usually in their reaction, I've noticed, and the way they go about talking about doing what's right, because a lot of times, especially in regards to what we're doing here, there is a misconception that empathy is being vulnerable to a point of weakness. They describe it as if opening up is not something a person does, because you're going to get taken advantage of if you keep doing that kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, but even then, even if you are taking advantage of it, at least you did good,
Yeah.
So I think they believe it's a strength versus weakness.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Seeds, are you awake or are you still sleeping? I'm going to assume for all intents and purposes you are still sleeping. Loon, are you available to answer a question?
Yes.
What's the hardest moment you've ever acted on your morals, even though it made things worse for you personally?
You're going quiet at the end one more time.
What's the hardest moment you've ever acted on your morals, even though it made things worse for you personally?
Trying to think of something that is TikTok friendly. Well, I almost got into a fight, over a person I knew being insulted for, how they were presenting at a bus station. And, this guy was like twice my size, and he was just saying a lot of like completely inappropriate things to be saying to people. And so I, started an issue.
Okay. Have you ever made someone uncomfortable by standing up for what's right?
I assume so. Like I've had people get defensive. I've had people start getting upset. But yeah, I feel like it does make a lot of people uncomfortable to have to hear about the things that they may be unwittingly or unknowingly participating in that actually hurt people.
Okay. Can you remember a time when you chose silence because it was easier, and you still regret that decision?
Yeah, I wish I had, stood up for my siblings more growing up.
Okay. What stopped you?
My dad.
Okay.
I gotta sing it every time now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start calling him Thompson.
What's one thing that you say you believe in but haven't actually followed through on real actions yet?
In any way, or
Yeah.
just as much as I'd like to?
In any way.
I don't think there's anything that I believe in that I haven't, at least in some way, worked towards achieving or making better. I might not be as far as I'd like to be in a lot of areas, but if there's one thing that I do have going for me, it's that I've at least tried to get started and tried to slowly improve through time.
Okay. And do you think most people actually want to be good, or do they just want to look good?
Honestly, I think that most people want to be good. I just don't think that most people care enough to actually make those active changes to be good. I mean, wanting to be good and actually like working to be good are two separate things. A lot of people, like religion-wise, for example, get up on their high horses of how great of people they are because they pay tithing, but it'll be in the same church where it's going towards their pastor's Ferrari instead of doing any actual work to get money to the programs and communities that they believe need it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for your answer. So, next, we're going to go ahead and just cross the threshold. This is where you choose a side. If you're not willing to cross the line for what's right, then you're already on the wrong side of it. Stop pretending that the world is neutral. Every moment you stay on the fence, someone else is getting buried under it. There's no such thing as staying out of it. Not when rights are being stripped. Not when people are sleeping on concrete. Not when genocide is live streamed and the algorithm just keeps scrolling past it. You either interrupt the harm or you become a part of its design. And yes, that sounds harsh, but comfort is what keeps the machine running. Good people do nothing. That's the lifeblood of every oppressive regime that has ever thrived. So here's the gut check. When shit goes down, when someone's being targeted, abused, erased, do you move or do you freeze? Because the real measure of morality isn't how you act when things are easy. It's who you become when things are on the line. This is your threshold moment. What you do next determines which side of history you're standing on. And that choice is every single day. So what now? We don't get to perfection. We practice being good every single day with action and accountability, with community. Being good doesn't mean never messing up. It means taking responsibility when you do. It means learning, unlearning, showing up, and showing up again even when you're tired, especially when you're tired. You prove you're a good person by how you treat people with no power, by what you do when no one's looking, by where you put your body and your voice when injustice shows up. So for our final list of questions, take this up to Torsdag. What does your practice of being a good person look like right now?
Being there for others when they need you to be. Simply put.
What's one thing you can start doing this week to live that more fully?
To continue doing what I do.
And how can we support each other in this process instead of policing each other?
To be understanding of where everybody comes from and that we all have a story.
Thank you, Torsdag. Pixa, what does your practice of being a good person look like right now? Pixa may have fallen asleep. That's okay. Loon, since you're the last person on panel that is awake, what does your practice of being a good person look like right now?
Doing what I can, where I can.
What's one thing you can start doing this week to live your practice more fully?
Start dedicating more time to looking for things to do.
And how can we support each other in this process instead of policing each other?
By treating people how they want to be treated instead of treating each other how we think that they want to be treated.
Thank you very much. So just to recap the episode for everybody who's just coming in, tonight we cracked open the difference between being good and looking good. We challenged the myths of moral identity, confronted complicity, and unearthed the daily invisible decisions that shape who we really are. Goodness is not a static label. It's a living practice, one grounded in reflection, action, and community. And it's never about being perfect. It's about choosing again and again to align with what's right, even when it costs you.
No.
Being a good person is not who you are. No. It's what you do, especially when there's no one clapping for you. It's easy to say that you're a good person. It's harder to prove it in a world that rewards silence, comfort, and self-preservation. Tonight wasn't about dragging anybody. It was about daring everyone. Daring us all to stop coasting on good intentions. Daring us to question how many of our good deeds are actually about us. Daring us all to hold the mirror long enough to see past the polish and into the cracks. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. We've all caused harm. We've all stood by when we should have stepped in. We've all made choices out of fear or pride or ignorance. That doesn't make us evil, but it does make us responsible. And that's the difference. Goodness isn't a crown, it's a compass. And every day, every moment, you're choosing where that compass points. If your goodness only shows up when it's easy, when your friends agree, when there's credit to gain, then it's not goodness. It's branding. But if it shows up when it's hard, when it costs, when it isolates, when it challenges even your own comfort, then that's something real. That's courage. That's integrity. That is love in action. So prove it. Prove it by how you listen, by how you repair when you mess up, by how you share your resources, by how you uplift those crushed by the weight of a system that benefits you. Prove it by asking the hard questions, by disrupting cycles, by unlearning the myths that say you're only valuable when you're nice. Be good in the dark. Be good when it's messy. Be good when it's risky. Because if goodness can survive there, it can change the world. To our panel, thank you so much for your honesty, your stories, your rawness, and your call-ins and call-outs. You've reminded us that goodness isn't just about showing up. It's about showing up again and again and again in ways that actually make a difference and holding ourselves accountable. To the audience, here's your at-home task. Write down 5 ways that you think you're a good person. And then write down 5 ways you've acted on that. Compare the list. Where do they line up? Where do they fall apart? And what can you change today? And if you're sitting with the discomfort right now, good. That means you're still in the process. That means that you haven't closed your doors to growth. To everybody, thank you for joining me on another episode of Interviewing Humanity. As always, I've been Sludge Knuckle. This has been Interviewing Humanity. You've been fucking amazing. Stay loud, stay learning, and stay willing to do the work. I'm going to leave the panel open for a few minutes, put on a couple of songs from the new album. Please, if anybody wants to come up and chat, go ahead and throw up a request and we'll bring you on in. And after this, I'm going to do a movie over on Discord.
And come take a nap?
No, I need to drive more.
Tonight?
Yes. I have to be in the city that my children are the morning after tomorrow. And that is still 300 plus miles away.
I don't understand miles and time.
It's a long ways.
I understand that. Sorry. I just... do you need me to set up so things are ready to move then?
Yes, but not right this moment. I'm gonna wait for the evening traffic to die down a little bit.
Okay, sounds good. Did you check PayPal already?
I did, yes. 6 hours if you're driving the speed limit. My bus goes a maximum of 55, and that's on a good clip.
Yeah. So like 18 more hours?
There's a...
says so about 7.
There's a... You're thinking about flat territory, my friend. No, I'm talking about the Pacific Northwest in the Cascade Mountains. I go about 20 to 30 up hills, and there are more hills between here and there than there are towns.
Not eat green eggs and ham.
Torstag says I do live in the CERN field.
In the Kern fields. Yes. Yeah. It's still got a good ways before we are where we need to be, and I still am not quite up to par with the amount of fuel I need. Closer, though. We are closer to the amount of fuel needed.
Yay.
Food, however.
Well, you didn't like your peanut butter honey sandwiches?
Yes. Yes. I love choking down fistfuls of peanut butter. It is delicious.
I'm so sorry.
No, I actually do like choking down. I do appreciate peanut peanut butter. Just good stuff. Hose and a rest stop. Oh, yeah. Let's see. I want to start off with some of the new beats that I've been making. So, take us all the way back up here and enjoy some of the tunes, guys. Torsdag, keep an ear open because if you want to throw some lyrics at some of these, go ahead and just tell me which one.
Oh yeah, speaking of, real quick, I don't know exactly when I'm gonna do it next week, but I think next week I'm gonna try and run my game again on my live, if anybody wants to do that.
Alright, I might be down for that.
Alright, bet. And we're just gonna do it in like